Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of my computer. There I was, James, sitting in the dim light that barely escaped the confines of the screen. The silence wasn't just around me. It felt like it had seeped inside me, a prelude to the storm that was about to hit. I clicked on the video, a mundane act I'd done countless times before, but this time my hand trembled. There she was, Anna, my wife of 15 years, her blonde curls bouncing with each step she took. The kind of look she reserved for our anniversaries, now shared with him. A guy who looked like he stepped right out of her gym fantasies, towering over me not just in height but in confidence too. Hey, come on in. I'm so glad you could make it. I heard her voice, too chipper, too inviting. The young man chuckled, a deep, resonant sound that made my stomach churn. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Anna. This place is our little secret, right? I watched, numb, as they grew closer, his hands finding her waist with a familiarity that sent jolts of pain through me. Anna laughed, that light, carefree sound I thought was reserved for our moments. My moments. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, her gaze locked on his. Absolutely, it's our escape. Just you and me. The screen showed them moving through the cabin, a place that held memories of quiet weekends away from the world. Only now, it was their escape, not ours. The guy shrugged off his shirt, muscles rippling, a smirk playing on his lips. Anna's reaction was immediate. Her hands reached out, tracing the contours of his body as if she were memorizing every detail. I felt a lump in my throat, watching the scene unfold. The intimacy between them was palpable, a stark contrast to the last time Anna and I were here. Our visits were filled with laughter and love, but this was something else. Raw, passionate, a connection I had never seen her share with me. Wow, have you been working out just for me? Anna teased, her voice a mix of admiration and desire. The man leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. Every single day, just to see that look on your face. I couldn't tear my eyes away as they continued their dance of betrayal. Anna, my Anna, was a different person with him. Free, uninhibited, her laughter and touches shared freely, something I had longed to see but never did. The room felt colder as I watched, the glow from the screen casting shadows that seemed to mock me. The man's voice was a low murmur, words I couldn't hear but didn't need to. Their actions spoke volumes, leaving me in no doubt of what was happening. My heart raced, anger and hurt warring within me. This wasn't just a fling. It was a deliberate choice, a series of moments where Anna chose him over me, over us. The realization was a punch to the gut, leaving me gasping for air. I struggled to breathe, to think. The man now had his back to the camera, Anna's arms wrapped around him as they shared a kiss that felt like the final blow. A kiss that seemed to seal their secret, their betrayal. How could you? I whispered to the empty room, my voice lost in the silence. The video continued, a cruel reminder of the love and trust one had misplaced. I sat there, a spectator to my own unraveling life, the man I thought I knew fading away. The man in the video, confident and loved, was a stranger to me now. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of emotions I couldn't navigate. The man on the screen was everything I wasn't, everything Anna apparently needed. The pain of that realization was sharp, unrelenting. I couldn't watch anymore. With a shaky hand, I closed the laptop, plunging the room into darkness. But the images, the sounds, they lingered, taunting me. The silence was no longer just around me. It was inside me, a gaping void where my heart used to be. In that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. My life, our life, had changed forever with that one disturbing discovery. Dinner that evening was a battleground. the tension thick enough to slice through. I sat across from Anna, each of us ensnared in a suffocating silence that seemed to press down upon us with the weight of unspoken truths. The clinking of cutlery against plates punctuated the quiet, a timid soundtrack to our mutual unease. Anna, I began, my voice a stranger to my own ears. We need to talk. The words hung between us, charged with an intensity that seemed to suck the air from the room. She looked up, her eyes searching mine, a flicker of apprehension shadowing her features. James, what's wrong? Her voice was laced with a concern that sounded almost genuine. Almost. It's about us, Anna. About what I've seen. My words felt heavy, each one a struggle to push past the lump in my throat. Her fork clattered onto her plate, her pretense at appetite vanishing. Seen? James, you're scaring me. What are you talking about? The video? The images that had burned themselves into my memory, replaying over and over. Relentless torment. I saw the video, Anna. The cabin. You and him. Saying it out loud, confronting the reality of it, was like ripping open a wound. For a moment, she just stared, her face pale, her lips parting in shock. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, her shock gave way to panic. James, I can explain. Please, let me explain. Her words were a plea, a lifeline thrown in the hope of salvaging what remained of our crumbling facade. But the betrayal I'd witnessed left no room for excuses, no space for forgiveness. Explain? How do you explain that, Anna? How do you justify it? She reached across the table, her hand trembling as she sought mine. It's not what it looks like. I mean, it is, but it's not just that. There's more to it. I pulled away, her touch like fire against my skin. More to it? You cheat on me, and there's more to it? Anger surged, a tidal wave threatening to drown us both. James, please. I was lonely, you were always working, and he was there. He listened. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry. Her voice broke, tears streaming down her face, but sympathy was a luxury I couldn't afford. Not now. A mistake? I echoed, my laugh bitter. Anna, mistakes are when you forget to pay a bill, not when you decide to sleep with someone else. You made a choice. She sobbed, her body shaking with the force of her cries. I know, and I regret it every day. Can we not try to get past this? I love you, James. Her declaration of love, once a balm to my soul, now felt like salt in an open wound. Love? Is that what love looks like to you? Betrayal? James, she began, desperation coloring her tone, but I cut her off, unable to bear another word, another excuse.
No, Anna.
I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend like everything is okay, like you didn't shatter everything we built together. The conversation spiraled, a maelstrom of accusations and denials, each word a blade that cut deeper into the fabric of our marriage. We were two strangers, sharing a history but divided by an insurmountable chasm of betrayal. As the night wore on, the initial shock gave way to a cold realization. The woman I had loved, the person I had shared my life with, was gone, replaced by a stranger with Anna's face. The confrontation, meant to bring clarity, had only deepened the divide, leaving us both adrift in a sea of heartbreak and recrimination. In the end, the only thing clear was the gulf between us, a chasm too wide to bridge. The confrontation had laid bare the truth of our fractured relationship, a truth neither of us could escape. The silence that followed was not the silence of peace, but of defeat, a quiet acknowledgement of the irreparable damage done. The days following the confrontation were a blur of emotion and activity. I, James, was a man possessed, driven by a need to understand the depth and breadth of Anna's betrayal. It wasn't enough to know that it had happened. I needed to understand how to trace the lineage of lies that had led us to this precipice. I started where any modern-day sleuth might, her phone. It felt like a violation, a betrayal in its own right, to sift through her private messages and calls, but the need for answers overpowered any hesitations. Just looking for the truth, I muttered to myself, a feeble justification for the invasion of privacy. Her phone was a Pandora's box of secrets. Messages exchanged with him, plans made, the casual intimacy of their conversations, a stark contrast to the strained exchanges between Anna and me. "Can't wait to see you again," one message read, a simple line that felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Next, I turned my attention to our bank statements, searching for any financial clues. Hotel bookings, gifts I never received, dinners out that I never tasted. Each transaction was a breadcrumb leading me down a path I wasn't sure I wanted to follow. I needed more, something concrete. That's when I decided to visit our cabin, the scene of their rendezvous. The drive there was a journey through a landscape of memories, each mile a reminder of what had been lost. The cabin looked the same as it always had, nestled quietly among the trees, a sanctuary from the world. Only now, it felt tainted, corrupted by the secrets it held. "Let's see what you're hiding," I said to the empty air as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The interior was as I remembered, cozy and welcoming, but my eyes were drawn to the details. A wine glass in the sink, not part of a pair. A throw blanket carelessly draped over the back of the sofa, not in its usual place. Small signs, perhaps, but to me, they were evidence of her presence, of their presence. I scoured the cabin, looking for anything out of place, any clue that might shed light on the affair. It was in the bedroom that I found it, a piece of jewelry not belonging to Anna. A man's watch, expensive, elegant, and decidedly not mine. "Gotcha," I whispered, the word a cold comfort. The watch was a lead, a tangible link to him. I took photos, documented everything, my mind already racing with the next steps. The local jeweler recognized the watch, remembered the man who wore it, but privacy laws prevented him from sharing more. Undeterred, I turned to social media, the digital age's answer to private investigators. It wasn't long before I found him, his profile a window into the life of the man who had intruded into mine. "So, you're the one," I said to the smiling photo on the screen, a mix of anger and curiosity churning within me. I dug deeper, tracing their interactions online, piecing together the timeline of their relationship. Each discovery was a blow, a confirmation of the depth of Anna's deception. And yet, with each piece of the puzzle, the picture that emerged was more complex than I had anticipated. The investigation consumed me, each day a mix of detective work and emotional turmoil. I was gathering evidence, building a case, but to what end? What am I hoping to find? I asked myself one night, the question hanging in the air, unanswered. The truth was elusive, a shifting shadow that seemed to dance just out of reach. With each clue, each revelation, I felt further from understanding, lost in a maze of betrayal and secrets. The investigation was a journey not just into the affair, but into the heart of our marriage, a search for answers that seemed as distant as ever. Armed with the fragments of truth unearthed from my relentless investigation, I was a tempest of emotion, a storm poised on the brink of eruption. The cabin visit, the discovered watch, and the endless digital trails had woven a tapestry of betrayal that I could no longer ignore. It was time for another confrontation, one that would lay bare the entirety of our fractured reality. The setting for this final act was our living room, the very heart of our shared life, now the stage for a reckoning that had been months in the making. Anna sat across from me, her posture tense, an air of resignation cloaking her like a shroud. The evidence lay before me, a silent testament to the journey I had undertaken, each piece a harbinger of the storm to come. "Anna," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging within, "I've been doing some digging. I know about him, about everything. My words hung heavy in the air, charged with an electric current of impending revelation. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of fear and sorrow, met mine. James, she started. But I cut her off, the floodgates of my pent-up frustration and hurt bursting open.
No, Anna.
It's time you heard what I found. It's time you see the extent of what you've done. I laid out the evidence piece by piece, the photographs, the bank statements, the watch, each item a chapter in the story of her betrayal. With each revelation, I watched her facade crumble, the weight of her choices pressing down upon her. James, please, let me explain. There's more to it, reasons you don't understand, she pleaded, her voice cracking under the strain. Reasons? You think there are reasons good enough to justify this? I demanded, my voice rising in indignation. How could you do this to us, Anna? How could you throw away everything we had for a fling? It wasn't just a fling. It was a mistake, a huge mistake, but it happened because we were already falling apart. Can't you see that? Her defense, a mix of confession and justification, did little to quell the storm within me. Falling apart? So, your solution was to seek comfort in someone else's arms? I retorted, the sarcasm bitter on my tongue. You didn't even try to fix us, Anna. You just gave up. The room was thick with unsaid words and stifled emotions, a battleground where the remnants of our love lay in tatters. I didn't give up, James. I just lost my way. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it all back, she sobbed, her tears a river of regret.
Sorry?
Your sorry changes nothing. It doesn't undo the lies, the deceit. It doesn't restore the trust that's been shattered. I shot back, my heart hardened against her pleas. We were locked in a dance of pain and accusation, a cyclone of words that left destruction in its wake. The truth, once veiled in shadows, now blazed between us, too bright, too harsh. I can't be the only one fighting for this, Anna. I can't be the only one trying to pick up the pieces, I said, the finality in my voice a chasm that yawned wide, threatening to swallow us whole. Her response was a whisper, a feeble attempt to bridge the gap that had yawned open between us. I know I've ruined everything, but isn't there a part of you that still cares? The question hung in the air, a specter of what had been, of what could never be again. In that moment, I realized the gulf between us was too vast, the damage too profound. The confrontation, revisited in the cold light of truth, was not a pathway to reconciliation but an acknowledgement of the end. The revelations had laid bare the depth of our divide, a chasm too wide to cross, leaving us as strangers bound by the remnants of a love that had once been unbreakable. As the night wore on, the storm of our confrontation ebbed, leaving in its wake the silent, aching remnants of a marriage undone by betrayal. The journey of our relationship, once filled with promise, had reached its inevitable conclusion, not with a bang, but with the quiet, devastating finality of a door softly closing on a love lost. The aftermath of our final confrontation settled over our home like a thick, oppressive fog, each day a laborious trudge through the detritus of our shattered relationship. I woke each morning to the ghostly silence of the house, a stark reminder of the chasm that now lay between Anna and me. Our interactions were limited, a necessary evil in the dance of dissolution we were now performing. One morning, as I poured coffee into a cup that no longer felt like mine, Anna entered the kitchen. Her presence, once the highlight of my day, now felt like an intrusion into my carefully guarded solitude. James, she began, hesitance woven into her voice, I've been thinking. Maybe we should talk about what comes next. I set the coffee pot down with more force than necessary, the sound a sharp retort to the suggestion. What comes next? I echoed, my tone laced with bitterness. I think it's pretty clear, Anna. There's no going back from this. She flinched at my words, a visible contraction of sorrow. I know, but we need to figure out the practicalities. The house, our finances, our lives. Her attempt at pragmatism was a jarring note in the cacophony of our unraveling. I sighed, the weight of the inevitable bearing down on me. Yes, the practicalities. Because that's all that's left of us now, isn't it? The sarcasm, a bitter pill, was out before I could swallow it back. Anna's shoulders slumped, defeat etched into her posture.
I'm sorry, James.
I really am. I never wanted it to end like this. Her apology, a litany of regret, fell on deaf ears. Sorry was a salve too weak for wounds this deep. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations and uncomfortable discussions. We divided our lives with the cold efficiency of accountants, allocating assets and memories with the stroke of a pen. Each item, each decision, was a stone added to the wall we were building between us. One particularly fraught afternoon, as we sat across from each other with a mediator, the absurdity of it all hit me. "Do you remember," I said, the words slipping out unbidden, "when we bought this couch? We argued for an hour about the color." Anna looked at me, a flicker of the old warmth in her eyes. "I remember. You wanted blue, and I insisted on gray. We ended up with neither." A small smile, the ghost of shared memories, danced on her lips. For a moment, we were not adversaries on the battlefield of divorce, but two people reminiscing about a life that had once been full of promise. But the moment was fleeting, dissolving under the weight of our current reality. "We were happy then," I said, the words a whisper of longing for a time that no longer existed. "We were," she agreed, her voice tinged with sadness. I wish things were different." But wishes, like sorry, were powerless in the face of the wreckage of our marriage. The fallout was a landscape of loss and regret, a testament to the cost of betrayal. As the process of disentangling our lives marched on, the finality of it began to set in. The home we had built together was now a house divided, its walls echoing with the ghosts of our past happiness. Our conversations, once filled with laughter and love, were now transactions, exchanges devoid of emotion. The fallout from Anna's betrayal and our subsequent confrontations had stripped away the veneer of our marriage, revealing the stark reality beneath. We were two people bound by history, but separated by choices that could not be undone. In the end, the fallout was not just the dissolution of our marriage, but the dismantling of the life we had built together. It was a process fraught with pain and loss, a journey through the ruins of a love that had once seemed unbreakable. As I stood amidst the debris of our shared existence, the path forward was unclear, shrouded in the fog of uncertainty and heartache. The only certainty was that nothing would ever be the same again. In the aftermath of the storm, amidst the ruins of what had once been my life with Anna, I found myself standing at the edge of a precipice. The world before me was a vast, uncharted expanse, a blank canvas that I was now free to paint with the colors of my own choosing. It was a daunting realization, the weight of my newfound freedom both exhilarating and terrifying. One crisp morning, as the first light of dawn crept through the curtains of my new apartment, a modest space that bore none of the marks of my previous life, I made a decision. It was time to rebuild, to forge a path forward from the ashes of my past. "This is the first day of the rest of my life," I declared to the empty room, my voice steady with resolve. My journey of rebirth began with small steps, tentative forays into the world that I had, for so long, viewed through the lens of my relationship with Anna. I rediscovered old hobbies, dusting off my guitar that had languished in a corner, the strings still carrying the melody of a life I had almost forgotten. One afternoon, lost in the chords of a song that felt like a bridge to my former self, I received a call from an old friend, Mike. "James, buddy, it's been too long. How about a drink tonight?" "On me," he offered, his voice a lifeline thrown across the distance that had grown between us. Hesitant but buoyed by the prospect of rekindling old friendships, I accepted. The bar was a cozy, dimly lit affair, a stark contrast to the bright, sterile spaces that had become the backdrop of my recent life. Mike greeted me with a warmth that melted the last of my reservations. "Look at you, man. It's good to see you out and about," he said, clapping me on the back as we settled into a booth. The evening unfolded with the ease of conversation that comes from years of shared history, a reminder of the person I was before my world had narrowed to the confines of my marriage. "You know, James, it's okay to start over." "Hell, it's more than okay. It's necessary," Mike said at one point, his words cutting through the fog of my doubts. Inspired by that night, I began to branch out, pushing the boundaries of my comfort zone. I joined a local hiking group, reveling in the simple pleasure of movement, of being part of the world in a way that I hadn't been in years. Each step was a declaration of independence, a reaffirmation of my ability to find joy in the solitary moments. It wasn't long before my solitary excursions became shared adventures. Sarah, a fellow hiker with a laugh that seemed to echo the joy I was beginning to rediscover within myself, became a constant companion. "You're quite the explorer, aren't you, James?" she teased one afternoon as we stood at the summit of a trail, the city sprawling below us like a promise. "I'm learning to be," I replied, the truth of the words resonating deep within me. Sarah's presence in my life, like the reawakening of my old passions, was a testament to the possibilities that lay on the other side of heartbreak. It was a slow dance, a cautious exploration of new emotions and connections that felt like the first tentative shoots of spring after a long, harsh winter. My rebirth was not a linear journey. There were days when the shadows of my past loomed large, threatening to engulf the fragile structure of my new existence. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, more resilient. I learned to embrace the uncertainty of the future, to find peace in the knowledge that I was the architect of my own destiny. One evening, as Sarah and I walked through the city, the lights twinkling like stars fallen to earth, I realized that I was no longer defined by the fallout of my marriage. I was not the man who had been betrayed, but rather, the man who had emerged from the wreckage, whole and new. "This is beautiful, isn't it?" Sarah said, her hand finding mine in the darkness. "It is," I agreed, "not just about the cityscape before us, but about the journey, about life itself." "It really is. The path of rebirth is paved with moments of clarity, of joy and newfound purpose. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the wake of profound loss, we have the capacity to rise, to rebuild, to find happiness in the wake of despair." My journey was my own, a story of rediscovery and renewal that was far from over, but I walked it with the knowledge that the best chapters of my life were still to be written.